Hey, welcome to Fish Innovation. We have another episode this week, and I'm really excited about the guest we have on today. His name is Morry Zelkovich. I'm not even going to give an introduction, what I normally do on the guest, because his story and work is so phenomenal. I want him to speak all about it himself. So, with that, Morry, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ben. I appreciate the opportunity to get the knowledge out to some people who may not even have a clue why I'm here or what I do.
Of course, I love it. So everyone on the show always starts off with their background. You don't need to tell me, where you were born and, what you did. However, we all want to know kind of what led you to what you're doing today. So it'd be really great to hear about that backstory.
So just so I'm clear, you don't need to know how much I weighed when I was born.
Unless it's relevant to what you do today, probably don't. It won't
Okay,
matter.
I'll leave that out. I'll leave that out. So basically, this is the thing. I'm 63 years old and I spent the first 40 odd years of my life wanting to be dead. So I bet that's a story you haven't heard too much or too often.
No, definitely
Yeah.
not.
So I grew up hating you even though I didn't know you, even though you weren't even born yet. I just hated the world. I hated everybody in it. I used to wake up every morning and look out my window and cross my fingers and think to myself, oh, I hope I see mushroom clouds. Please let me see mushroom clouds. Because if I saw mushroom clouds, it meant I didn't have to live through another day. I tried to end my own life 6 times that I'm aware of, probably more than that. But the thing is, if I really wanted to die, once should have been enough. And to show you how smart I am, it took me 6 times to figure that out. So that should tell you right now I'm not all that smart. When I realized I couldn't find a way to die, I had to find a way to live. And that's really what got me on the path to where I am today. I tried everything. I tried, I went through my life thinking that this is how everybody lives. Even though I saw people smiling and I saw people laughing and, I pretended to laugh and I pretended to smile too. I just thought it was everybody. As I got older, though, I started realizing that that isn't really everybody. I mean, unfortunately, it's too many people anyway, but it's certainly not everybody. And when I realized that I wasn't normal, I got a little frightened and a little scared, and I started trying things to make myself feel better. So I tried the usual suspects: drugs, alcohol, and women. It wasn't uncommon for me to have 3 dates in the same day. That's the kind of distraction I needed, just to keep me from thinking about how horrible the universe is and how horrible the world is and how little I wanted to be a part of it. None of that worked, obviously. I'm sure you can all imagine it made things quite a bit worse, as a matter of fact. So at that point, I thought, well, maybe I need professional help. So I started to see a psychiatrist and a psychologist and a social worker and a doctor and, pretty much anyone I could find to maybe help me understand why I'm thinking the way I'm thinking, why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. None of that worked either. Most of the doctors, I think, probably thought I was kidding. I used humor as a
Yeah.
shield a lot, and I don't think they believed me that I tried to end my life all those times. They all said basically, and this is before they gave pills for everything, but they would say, Maury, there's not really much we can do for you. You seem to be coping really well on your own. I found it amusing, well, in a sick kind of way, I found it amusing, that doctors would say an efficient and healthy coping style is to not succeed at suicide.
That's
Didn't make a
nuts.
lot of sense to me, but I obviously wasn't getting any help. So then I started going to homeopaths and osteopaths and naturopaths and chiropractors and pretty much anyone who would listen. People selling newspapers on a street corner, bartenders, anyone and everyone who might be able to help. They were good for nothing also. Now, please understand, I'm not insulting them saying that they're good for nothing. For me, they were good for nothing. Their techniques, their ways of doing things, their pigeonholing you, looking up your symptoms in a book didn't really work for me. So I tried everything. After that, tried anything I could find. Electronics, I tried shock therapy, I tried EMDR, rapid eye movements, I tried breathing techniques, I tried meditations, I tried hypnosis. Everything I could find. I literally tried thousands of different things. I was throwing you know what against the wall, hoping something would stick. Nothing stuck. And every time I would try something, I'd get my hopes up, maybe this time, maybe this time, maybe this time. But then it didn't. So it's the classic depression cycle, right? You know, you kind of going up, you're hoping, and then you get everything. I was like Charlie Brown with Lucy pulling the football away from me every time I tried to kick it. But I wouldn't learn. I just kept doing it over and over and over again, getting more and more depressed as I went along. Then I decided one day that maybe I need to understand why I feel the way I do. Because just throwing crap against the wall wasn't helping. If I knew why I was feeling the way I was feeling, maybe I would have something to target, something I could actually intelligently choose. So I went to a place that I affectionately call the paper internet. So Ben, can you tell me what the paper internet is?
I would think it's the newspaper or.
Close. It's a library. Because back then they didn't have the internet, so I couldn't just do a search for something in Google or, you know, even use AI to help me formulate what might be going. This is what I'm experiencing. Tell me what you think I might be going through. No, that didn't exist. So I had to read medical journals and research papers and newspapers and magazines and textbooks. And that's what I did. I spent all the time in a library trying to understand what was going on and what made me think the way I thought. As I was trying all these different techniques that failed, they didn't really fail because they taught me something as I was moving along. Then I went to the paper internet and I started learning more things and understanding things in a way that made more sense to me. Finally, through all of this, I found something called brainwave entrainment. After everything that failed, this brainwave entrainment seemed to me to be, I think this has some bearing on what's going on, because I was on a camping trip. And at the time, I couldn't sleep unless I was wasted. So, you know, I was drinking my face off on the trip. Everybody else had gone to bed. And I rolled myself a big, thick joint. And I smoked it. And normally this joint would have lasted me half an hour. So we're talking about midnight. I figure I should be really stoned, really wasted by 12:30. I'll go to bed. By the time I finished the joint, it was like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. It shouldn't have taken that long. Exactly. Time had never passed fast for me, ever, under any condition. Interestingly enough, I feel like even today, I feel like I'm about almost 1,000 years old. If any of you have felt sad before, upset, or even depressed for a few minutes, my experience at least was that time moved excruciatingly slowly. That's why I feel like I'm 1,000 years old, because 40 years of feeling depressed nonstop. And I went from depression to what I call super depression. When I recovered from the super depression, I went back to my regular depression. So I was sitting around this fire and time passed fast for the first time in my life. First time. And it kind of scared me at first. But then I thought, wait a minute. The way I was thinking was changing. Something happened. Well, I was sitting around a campfire and I wasn't looking at it because most of the time I had my hands on my forehead, my head, and my knees. What happened was the wood was really dry. And if any of you know anything about fires, when you're sitting around a campfire or in a fireplace, if the wood is really dry, there's little openings and the air expands and it pops the wood. You hear pop, 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 pop. It's almost like popcorn. I made the correlation that sound is what made me feel differently. When I got back from the camping trip, of course, I went right back to the paper internet again and I started researching. How does sound affect the psyche? How does sound affect neurology? How does it affect neural chemistry? How does it affect this? How does it affect mood? And that's when I got introduced to brainwave entrainment. And I thought, finally, something that crosses the eye, crosses the T's and dots the I's. But when I tried what existed, it didn't help, didn't do anything. Something nagged inside my brain and said, you know, it should have helped. So I started modifying it myself. And when I was ready to test my modifications, it took me a month to get my courage up, because the first 2 weeks I was terrified. What if it doesn't work? This is really my last chance. Keep in mind, I've been researching more or less in a manner of speaking for 40 years. I was out of options. When I finally got to the point where I was ready to try something I invented, I was terrified. What if it didn't work? And then the next 2 weeks, so I got over that after 2 weeks. But the next 2 weeks, what if it did work? What if it made it worse? At which point I was in the middle of a super depression and I said, screw it. Who cares? I'm just going to do it. When I did it, it was a half-hour recording. I knew what I had done to the recording to make it how I thought it should work based on what I had understood from my studies of neurobiology, neurochemistry, behavior, perception, psychology, and I tried it. Right away, oh, by the way, one of the things I forgot to mention is one of my symptoms were thousands of voices in my head all the time. Now, these aren't voices like in Hollywood, where it's a voice telling, like, a good angel and a bad angel or something telling me to do bad things. This was like being in a crowd of tens of thousands of people and they were all talking at the same time. That's what it was like. So I ran this session, that's what I call it, when I put on my headphones and I listened to a recording. And it felt like half an hour, and it was half an hour. And I kind of paid attention to all the little nuancy type things I did to it, and it didn't matter. I noticed all of them. When it was over, I didn't feel any different at all. And I started getting really, really depressed because I thought this was my last chance. But then one voice came to me, not a million voices, but one voice came to me and it said, did you really expect 1/2 hour listening is going to change 40 years? You're going to have to do this more often and you're going to have to do it regularly and consistently. And I thought to myself, yeah, that makes sense. That was a massive change because normally I would have gone back into a super depression for 6 weeks. But I didn't. The other thing is, within 5 minutes of the recording ending, I started hearing the voices coming back. Those were two massive changes. And that's what got me into it. I know it's a rather long-winded story, but I thought that it was important to understand the basis of why everything happened. So understand that as a result of all of this, I don't believe in truth or fact. When I did, I knew what was coming. It was misery, it was depression, it was anger, it was everything horrible. When I believe in current understanding, it leaves my brain open and my mind open, which means I can listen to anybody now and learn something valuable. Instead of me waiting for you to stop talking so I can tell you how it really is, which is how I was, now I listen because your perception, your universe, your interpretation is being expressed to me because it's something I need to hear. So my whole attitude shifted from listening to these recordings. And it turns out everybody has a brain. Friends noticed me feeling better, acting differently. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? So I gave them the recording. I said, this is what I'm doing. Everything else is the same. This is what I'm doing. Weeks later, they all reported to me how wonderful they're feeling. And I'm sleeping better and I'm thising better. And, sex with my wife is better and everything is better. And I thought they were just blowing smoke up my you-know-what, right? Yeah. Because they're friends, right? They want to make me feel better. They see I'm getting a little better, so they thought, okay, Maury's doing this woo-woo crap, but we're going to support him because he's getting better. But then I started getting phone calls from people I don't know. They have friends that I never met that they gave the recordings to. And they started calling me up going, hey, you don't know me, but I'm Bob's friend, and I'm Sue's friend, and I'm Jeff's friend. Can you tell me what's going on with your recording? Because I'm sleeping better, I'm feeling better, I'm doing better at school, blah, 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 blah. That's when I knew I was onto something that was universally good for everybody. And then I started developing my first system, which launched in 2007. And since then, I've launched over 40 systems, and I'm working on 50 new techniques and technologies. Every one of my systems has proprietary technology or techniques that I've developed because I can't stop now. My brain has been unlocked. It's like Pandora's good box, not Pandora's evil box, but it's like Pandora's good box has been opened. And the ideas just flow now. And I am so grateful for the pain and for the horror and for the depression of all of those years, because without that, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't be feeling the way I feel, and I wouldn't be able to do the good and help others to do the good for themselves that I'm able to do today. So it's just an amazing ride, and I'm grateful for all of it.
Yeah, no, that's an amazing story, and you're absolutely right. I mean, talk about a lot in startups and innovation, right, is to fail fast, to get to that point where you can have that turning point. 40 years is not fast, but
it feels fast.
Yeah, but it was a way though to kind of catalyze you to be able to see both sides, which is which is great. And what you were mentioning just a little bit ago about being able to hear and listen is active listening, right? Which was a lot of people should be practicing all the time within business and daily conversation, because it gives the other person, you get to hear everything they're saying, you get a chance to process it and then provide that back. So even just from helping people learn active listening, it's great.
Well, think about it from a quantum physics standpoint. Quantum physics essentially says at its most basic level, I won't get too sciencey, don't worry.
No, that's all
But
right.
at its basic level, it says nothing exists until it's observed. The thing with humans is when we observe something, we don't just observe it, we give it meaning, we define it. Now, that means that each of us, we have different experiences. We see things differently. We interpret them differently. That means we can look at the same thing but see different things. But because you see something different than me, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist or it's not real.
Mm-hmm.
For you, it is, and it does. For me, I might have a different interpretation of what's going on. For me, it does as well. That to me is beautiful because that makes me listen. That makes me pay attention because I'm always right and you're never wrong. It's an amazing feeling to live your life that way. When anyone says anything, they're right. Even if you don't agree with them, it doesn't matter if you agree because they don't see things the way you do. They don't interpret things the way you do. And your way isn't better than their way, and their way isn't better than
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah. It's being able to observe and relate to that person and trying to find those connections. And
And no judgment.
yeah.
First time in my life, I've lived like a couple of years now with no judgment whatsoever. And it's the most refreshing, freeing feeling I've ever had.
Yeah. That's amazing. So you have the systems that you put together, and I take it, maybe that original recording is floating around somewhere on the internet.
It's still in one of my best selling products, actually.
Oh, nice. So is this something where people access it digitally, or is it you download the MP3?
So depending on the partner I have, it's either a download or I have different products for different people and different deals because everybody has their niche, right?
Mm,
So some of them, and we're kind of moving towards streaming now because streaming technology is far more efficient than it used to be. In the past, it was too uneven, it was too unreliable, so you had to download. So I have some people I work with who are kind of old fashioned, so they still offer everything as downloads that I offer through them. But the newer people I'm dealing with are all basically streaming. So we're developing apps, or people can even just go to websites and log in, and then they have the recordings. You just kind of tap on them and they play. And there's nothing to learn, there's nothing to study. That's, you see, I'm pretty lazy. It's funny that I'm lazy because I'm lazy in one way, but in another way, I can't be stopped. So I
yeah.
don't stop. It's kind of strange. I tell my wife I'm really lazy. That's why I developed stuff that you don't have to do anything to get benefits from. Like, how hard is it to put on a pair of headphones, hit play, and have a nap? You literally can fall asleep and it doesn't matter. It makes no difference to the effectiveness of the recordings. That's pretty lazy. But at the same time, I develop systems and methodologies that allow for natural processes to do all the heavy lifting. So it's not lazy in the designing, it's not lazy in the creating. Actually, I'm so passionate about it. I love doing this so much that I do think of it as lazy. Because in the past, I used to put things off because I didn't want to do them. I was bored. I was this, I was that. Now I want to do them because it's like, ooh, I get to have fun. I get to create this. I get to play with this. And even when I make a mistake or when a thought I have doesn't work out the way I expected it to, it always leads me to a better end. I did a course, like a 6 webinar series on self-confidence and self-esteem. And then my computer got a virus. So I called up the virus company because it didn't get rid of it. And they logged into my computer and I made them promise they wouldn't do anything except look around unless I gave them permission because I've got this system I've been working on and it's only on my computer and I need to make sure. And they said, yes, sir, we promise. Well, this guy's flying around my screen at the speed of light. And of course, he deleted it all. All of it was gone. It was like a 6-month process to create this 6-week webinar. I was so upset. So upset. And then I was grateful because what I replaced it with was so much better.
Nice.
Right?
See,
So
everything
everything
happens
for a
for a reason.
reason. There's always
Yeah.
that silver lining. And that's one of the things I was learning from coming from a place of darkness where, like, you see how black this is, right? This is black. It actually lit up a little bit, so it looks like gray, but it's dark, dark black. Imagine the darkest black you can imagine. That would be a bright, sunny day for me for 40 years. Literally, that would be a bright, sunny day. And now I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for all of it. I can't imagine what my life would be like. You know, the beautiful thing is we only have now. One of my philosophies says, my understandings is that, you know, for instance, Ben, do you remember having dinner last night?
Yes.
Good. When did you remember having dinner last night? When was it for you when you remembered it?
So I'm a little strange. Clearly, when you just asked me about it, but I did think about it.
Okay, but right now, but even a couple hours ago when you thought about it, it was now, right? At that moment, it was now. When you were chewing your food, when was it for you? Was it like this now or was it that now?
After, I don't know. Are we?
Right, but it was now. The point I'm getting at is you can't chew in the past
Yeah,
and you
everything
can't
happens in the
chew in the
present. Yeah,
future.
we live in the
That's right.
present.
There's only now. That's right. And you can't breathe in the past and you can't breathe in the future either because they don't actually exist. Memory gives us a really a false feeling that time exists. We had a meeting to meet at a certain time, and that gives us the illusion that time exists. It's all now. That's all there is now. So it doesn't matter that I had 40 years of hell on earth that felt like 900 years. That doesn't matter because it's not now. That's the beauty of this philosophy. So as long as the philosophy works for me, I believe in it. But I don't really believe in it. It's really more of a current understanding, which allows me to have an open mind so that you might say something, someone else might say something, there might be a comment in the chat that goes, aha, now I have a different way of thinking. I can't tell you how many podcasts I've done where people say, hey, I heard you today and it was interesting until I heard a previous podcast you did 6 years ago or 10 years ago, and you were saying all these things differently and different things. And I said, well, isn't that beautiful? What do you mean beautiful? How can I trust you if you keep changing what you're thinking? Well, what it means is I have an open mind and I'm learning, doesn't it? Oh, I see what you're saying now. Yeah, the person who I was 10 years ago thought what I thought. The person today thinks what I think. The person tomorrow might think something completely different.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting. Like when you tie it back to business, you've got people who will say, "Hey, I have to see the reporting and I have to see what happened," which is great, right? You learn from the past, which is a little different. But if you continue to do the same thing over and over again, then you're not adapting or changing. And I think that's an important thing to remember is to keep that
100%.
open in mind when you're running your business and thinking about how can I to get that success, I need to be kind of thinking about things differently and being able to be open-minded to change my mind.
That's 100% true. Understanding is more important than knowledge. When I was in school and I tried to memorize things, didn't work out well for me. But if you understand something, you don't need a good memory,
Yep.
right?
Percent. I long time ago when I was a chemist, that was one of the things I taught. People can remember over and over in organic chemistry, they can do the name reactions, right? So maybe the professor will have a test that says, oh, what's the name of this reaction? You could have spent all night learning the name. But at the end of the day, what's really important? Did you understand how that mechanism works? How is that doing it? So that's what I ended up teaching was how things, if you can understand how things worked, I could throw anything at you and you could tell me, I mean, I don't need to know the name, you could tell me exactly what the answer is going to be because you knew how it works.
Well, that's how you solve a problem, by understanding how something works. If you only understand facts or you only know facts, then you kind of go through your Rolodex of facts, and if none of them apply, you're lost. But if you have an understanding of how things function, you can solve problems that no one's ever identified before. That is exciting. That is super exciting. That you can solve problems. See, I believe that I don't really believe in much, but I believe that if I get a thought, if I get an idea, it's possible. That's why I got the thought or the idea. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten it. So to me, nothing's impossible. And I've actually come up with certain techniques in some of my work that is supposed to be impossible. And yet I did it because I don't believe in impossible. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's not logical to think about anything as being impossible. Everything is possible. I manifested a team of people with one of my business dealings now of like 12 people that if I were to pay them a monthly fee for their services like other people would have to, I'd be spending $150,000 a month right now, developing a new system and a new protocol for selling and offering my work to the public. Every single one of these people is working based on performance. I have people building apps for me, and they're going to be affiliates, but they have app building as a real skill, and they're building the app just to help us. They're not charging us. How do you manifest all this value? I have people who drive Lamborghini Countach. Seriously, a Lambo Countach. This thing in Canada sells for probably $280,000. He has a business where he charges a monthly fee, plus you have to give him money to spend to make him money.
Yeah.
He's not charging me a dime, and he's redesigning my website at no cost. How do you manifest this? Is it magic? Well, in my view, there's no such thing as magic. It's all science that hasn't been explained yet, that's all. Manifestation is collapsing it. Again, it's quantum physics. There's unlimited potential, unlimited options. What you choose to think about, you can collapse into reality. So I say, why choose the bad thing? Why choose failure? Why choose, struggle? Why not choose something that other people might say, oh, you're crazy, it's a pipe dream. Go get a job at McDonald's, Maury, because you're never going to sell what you do. Well, if I'm never going to sell what I do, how come I've been doing it full time for like 20 years? Everything is possible. You're here for a reason. You're not here to take up space. Everybody is a cell with a function, and that function is an important function. Not everybody's a brain surgeon, but not everybody's a garbage collector either. But let me ask you a question. Ben, you tell me, if aliens came and took every single brain surgeon, neurologist off the planet, a lot of people would suffer, right? Okay, now they put all the brain surgeons and neurologists back. Now they've taken everybody who collects the garbage and keeps our world clean. How long do you think before most of us are dead or dying from disease?
Then taking the brain surgeon.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Everybody is important. Every single person is important, whether they have a job, whether they don't have a job, whether they do something that everyone thinks is wonderful, or whether they just sit around watching Netflix all day long. Everybody is here for a reason, and it's a valuable purpose. It doesn't matter if the cell in the body of humankind you are is a cell in the toenail or a cell in the heart. Every cell is there for a reason, so are you. And you can manifest anything you want. Sure, it took me 3 years of this attitude to manifest. But I used to dream about this, like literally fantasize. And here I am, living it. How did this happen? It's not magic, but it is manifestation. Manifestation, again, is not magic. It is simply a way to think. It's a way to understand your place in the universe, and it's a way to understand that you're supposed to feel good. Think about it. Feeling good feels good, right? And feeling lousy feels lousy. Do you think that's random? It's not random. It's the universe, your body, your soul, your spirit, whatever you want to call it, telling you, I'm doing and thinking the right thing. I know that because I feel good, and I'm happy. I'm doing and thinking the wrong thing. I know that because I feel like crap. If I break my leg and it doesn't hurt, I may not go to a hospital and get it set. If I don't go to a hospital and get it set because it doesn't hurt, maybe it doesn't heal properly. Maybe it has to be amputated. Maybe it gets infected and I die. The pain is a good thing. It motivates me to do something about it. Don't misinterpret your anxiety. Don't misinterpret your bad feelings. Don't misinterpret pain as a bad thing. It's a warning. It's my current understanding that if we pay attention to these warnings when they're little itty bitty warnings, maybe we don't have to go through the horrible dramatic stuff that we do later on because we chose to ignore the little itty bitty stuff. So I encourage everybody not to ignore the little itty bitty stuff anymore. Pay attention. Give it your attention. Give it your time. Give it your compassion. You might just be saving yourself. Now, you'll never know if I'm right, because if you do pay attention to the little stuff, you'll avoid all the big stuff. right? So you'll never know what you avoided. But don't you want to go through your whole life and maybe it'll be 130 years when you lie down and smile and go, hey, I've had a good life. Thanks, everybody. And you don't know all the terrible boulders that could have crushed you, but they didn't because you took care of the little stuff, the warnings, the little red lights on the dashboard of your life. Anyway, sorry, I'll get off my soapbox now. I realize I'm preaching a little here. So
No, I
sorry.
mean, it's great because it provides a different way of thinking about things. I think we do hear this a lot, even in coaching. People talk about this, and you yourself are your worst critic or your best cheerleader, however, whatever you want to say to it. Like, you can control your own self. And so, to your point, is not just be focused, which is great in those times that require focus, but listen to what's around you. If you're getting really tired because you're working 60 hours a week or 80 hours, whatever it is, and you're I'll just get more coffee. Maybe it's your body or your mind telling you, hey, let's take a break, because probably not going to do much better work at this. Let me tell you. And yeah, you could ignore that. And then now we hear, of course, from doctors like, hey, a lot of stress can lead to a shortened life. And it's like, well, yeah, we can mask these things so we don't have to deal with it, whether it's drugs or, you name it. But yeah, no, it makes total sense to do that. So where do you see folks will starting to change their mindset? Like, how do you see this becoming more and more of a part of someone's daily routine so that they can incorporate sort of what you've been talking about?
So here's the thing. I know a lot of people will hear, well, you got to put on headphones and then you got to sit down with head support, or you got to lie down and take half an hour out of your day at least. And they go, I'm too busy. I don't have that. I've got kids. I've got work. I've got this. I've got that. When I was developing this, I worked for a company. And they trained me. I was like their video content manager. And they trained me to do the job. So it took me 8 hours a day to do the job. I was developing this system at the time. I started listening 3 times a day. So I listened twice at work. Once during a break. So there's a 15-minute break. Took half an hour. And then half an hour of my 1 hour lunch break I took also. And then I listened again at night when I got home, like after dinner. Within 3 months, I had innovated, if I might take your little sign in the back there, I had innovated a new way to do the job that it took me 4 hours. That left me 4 hours on their dollar, by the way, because they were still paying me to do the job. They weren't paying me by the hour. They were paying me to do the job, to do research into the brain, into neurology, into all this kind of stuff. And I was getting paid by somebody else to train myself for my new career. So by taking an hour and a half out of my day, I was adding hours to my day because I was becoming more creative, more efficient, faster, stronger, better than I was. Whatever you are now, I guarantee you can be more efficient. I guarantee you can be more creative. I guarantee you can be more innovative. Just because you're in a habit and you're in a routine that says this gets done when I do this and this gets done when I do that, when you start getting more creative and more innovative, there's always a better way. And even when you cut it down to 4 hours, doesn't mean you can't cut a few more minutes off it here and there either. Look at your day. One of my problems and addictions was cigarette smoking when I used to smoke like 40 years ago or 30 years ago or whatever it was. One of the ways not one of the ways, but the way I quit was I had a habit. So I decided I'm going to learn what my habit is. So I had a piece of paper or a pad of paper with me and a pen. Every time I had a cigarette, I recorded the time, the day, and the reason why I'm having it. I'm bored. There is no reason. I just feel like a cigarette. Whatever it was, I'm jonesing for the nicotine, whatever the reason was. So after 2 weeks, I saw what my habit was. My habit was about a pack and a half a day. So I was smoking about 30 cigarettes a day. After that, I said, okay, now I have an understanding of my habit and I know why I'm doing it. I'm just going to cut back 1 cigarette at a time. So today I'm going to start smoking 29 cigarettes. And I'm going to do that until 29 feels like 30. And then it was 28 until it felt like 29, and so and so and so and so. In the end, I was smoking 1 cigarette a day, and I said to myself, why am I bothering? And I just stopped. And that was it. It was nothing. It was easy to stop when you smoke 1 cigarette a day. 30, not so easy. It took me like 3 months to stop smoking that I remember. I could be wrong. It may have taken me a little longer. But the bottom line is I never went back because I came up with a way to solve my problem that I couldn't solve before. Anything you're doing, you can change, and you can change how you do it. You can change why you do it. You can understand it. When you understand why you do what you do, it's a lot easier because that takes away the fear, takes away the trepidation. Most people are going to quit smoking, to continue with that example. They're afraid to stop because it freaks them out. Oh my God, I'm so used to smoking. Now I feel like smoking a cigarette. I used to have a stupid joke where I'd say, because they'd have all these stop smoking commercials, they would make me smoke. I could go like 3 hours. I'm watching a hockey game or something and I'm watching it. I'm not smoking. I don't care about a cigarette. And then, for the Canadian Cancer Society, stop smoking. We have these services for you. That's right. I haven't been smoking. I better go outside and have a cigarette now. Right? So it was like it was putting it into my head.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. But the thing is, I made it painless. And 3 months or 4 months or whatever it took might seem like a long time to quit smoking, but in the span of your life, it's nothing.
Yeah. Agreed.
And I feel so much better without that habit, without that bad habit. Einstein once said, I think it was Einstein, he's credited with it anyway, there's no such thing as genius, only people who see things others don't see. That's it. So you can choose to see things. If you choose to see something, you will see it. Your creative blood will start flowing. You can solve any problem you have. You can solve any thought you have. And the proof of that is you have the thought and you have the problem. It's all there to teach us something. Life is a learning experience. When we stop learning, that's the mistake. We don't make mistakes unless we don't learn from them. There's no such thing as a mistake. There's no such thing as a failure. Again, that's an attitude I've adapted and adopted. And by adapting and adopting that way of thinking, nothing scares me. Circumstances don't scare me. Everything's potential now. What do you want everything to stay the same for? That's boring. Most of my friends are talking about retiring soon. My life's just getting going. How would you like to look back at your life when you're in your mid-60s, because I'm sure you're not near that now, but look at your mid-60s and think to yourself, you couldn't pay me enough money to go back to who I was when I was 25. Not in a million years. I feel better. I'm in better shape. I'm thinner. I'm happier. I'm not moving. I don't care that I don't have a full head of hair anymore. I used to take showers, okay? And it would take 10 minutes for me to feel water on my head. That's how thick the hair was on my head. That it would take me literally 10 minutes to actually feel the water on my skull. Well, you know what? I don't care. Because I'm happy. That's all that matters. Whatever is happy for you, that's all that matters. Don't worry about, I used to stand in line. I remember twice I stood in line for iPhones. By the way, you can see I don't use an iPhone anymore. But that's not because I have a hate on for iPhone. It's because I'm not married to it anymore. But that's the point. The point is I used to stand in line. And you know what? Watching YouTube and reading all the articles, it was so exciting. What's coming? What's coming? What's coming? In the end, it was slightly flatter. It was slightly bigger. It had a slightly better battery, slightly faster. Who cares? I was like a kid on Christmas. Let me play with the packaging. I don't care about. When I got the device, it was like, yeah, who cares? Whatever. 5 minutes later, did it really make any difference? No, of course not. But the excitement and the thing, I got myself so hyped up about it. It was the steps to get there were so much more exciting than when I actually got it. It was like, yeah, whatever. Who cares? That's the point, right? Be excited for every step in your life. Don't worry about the golden pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, because that's not what's important. That's not the value. That's not the true joy in life. The true joy is the learning. It's the experiencing. Don't wait for $1 million to make you happy, because it won't. And when you get it, you'll go, oh, maybe it's 2 I need, or maybe it's 5, or maybe it's 10. And then you'll go through most of your life and you'll think to yourself, why aren't I happy? I have all this money. I have all these possessions. Why aren't I happy? You're not happy because you distracted yourself from what nature gave you. Nature gives you the feeling of joy. Pay attention. It will tell you what you need to make you happy. Not what I need, not what Hollywood tells you you need, not what Apple tells you or Samsung tells you or whatever tells you. You are the only person. You are the guru. You are the only one who can possibly know. Look, I tell people a story, okay, and then I promise I'll let you get a word in here. But I tell a story about Tony Robbins. So for the sake of this story, let's say Tony is offering his suit. But his suit, for everybody and all intents and purposes, is his course that he's selling, okay, for $5,000 from stage. So this is what he does. He goes up on stage and he goes, my suit's the most amazing suit in the world. You buy my suit and you'll be successful. You'll be happy. You'll be this. You'll be that. And I go up to him after and I shake his hand because he's a lot taller than I am. So I'm doing it like this. Say, hey, Tony, I want to buy your suit. And he goes, sure, man. Venmo me $5,000 and the suit is yours. So that's what the course costs, $5,000. I Venmo him the money. He goes into the back, puts his suit into a suit bag and gives it to me. Well, if I go home and I try this suit bag on, well, if I try the suit bag on, it's going to look pretty funny. But if I try his suit on, he's much taller than I am. He's much bigger than I am. The suit's going to look like, I'm going to look like a 6-year-old trying on dad's clothes, right?
Yeah.
However, if I go to a tailor after his show and I say, can you measure me and tailor this suit to fit me? He's going to go or she's going to go, sure, sir, no problem. I'm going to come back in a week. I'm going to put on this suit. It's going to fit like a glove. Moral of the story. Tony Robbins, Oprah Winfrey, Deepak Chopra, all the geniuses in the world, okay? Financial geniuses, whatever. They only know themselves. Any system, any product, any whatever they come up with is based on their experience, their life, their parents, their friends, their clothes, their cars, their education. None of that is yours. If you want their work to help you, you need to reimagine it, reinterpret it. You need to remake it. You need to tailor it to fit you first.
Mm-hmm.
Then once you've done that, if you're still inspired by it, that's when you act on it. And that's when you're going to get the benefits. That's why so many people do self-help and do other things and take courses, but they don't get anywhere because they're not tailoring it. All the self-help gurus need to put it, in my view, need to put a little paragraph in front of all their work. Before you do anything that I tell you to do or that I show you to do or that I've typed out for you to read, tailor it to fit you first, because I'm not you. Only you are you. Then and only then does it stand a chance of helping you. Because no matter how good intentioned I am, I can only work from my own perspective. I can't work from yours. And I think that's the golden nugget that's missing from every self-help system, from every self-improvement system, from anything to make people's life better. People need to understand that the person who designed it is not you. You need to redesign it. You need to tailor it to fit you. That's when you're going to get the benefits.
Yeah, and that's
okay.
I mean, it kind of goes. You can think about it as like AI today, too, right? I mean, if you just prompted the AI and said, "Hi, help me lead a better life," of course, it will come up with something. It will go and look across far and wide and come back and say, "All right, probability speaking, if I give you Tony Robbins stuff to read, you'll do better," right?
Sure.
But instead, if you prompted the AI and say, "I'm going to tell you all about me. I'm going to give you, you're going to take on the role of someone who's going to help, and now personalize it to me," the AI will be able to say, "Oh, okay, now I know who I have right here who's in front of me. Let me talk and give them the motivation or whatever it is, like the catalyst, the brainstorming work, so that they can figure it out on their own, because now I know who they are," right?
Exactly. And you're the only one who knows who you are.
That's correct. Yeah. We're all unique, right?
We are. We're all fingerprints. We're all genetic codes. And all of our genetic codes are unique unto ourselves. And that's why if you want to really help someone, help them to help themselves.
Yes. Right? You don't catch a fish for someone. You teach the person how to catch a fish.
Yeah, although on this show I would say don't catch a bend, teach people how to bend for themselves.
Correct. Hey, it's been awesome talking with you about all this and being able to hear about how to make folks really reframe their thinking and even have an opportunity and even a process that could be personally designed for them so that they can have this reshaping. Before we leave, is there anything else you want to add that we haven't talked about that you think is really important for folks to know?
I appreciate that. I would just like to finish by saying that happiness is a choice. And if you choose to be happy, more often than not, you will actually be happy. I'm not a big believer in what people call the law of attraction. I believe what you look for, you see. So it looks like it's being attracted to you, but you're deciding to look for it. The reticular activation system kind of helps you to see things. I just got a new car. So I'm driving this Hyundai Kona now. It's a really weird looking car. And when I bought it, all of a sudden I'm seeing Konas everywhere. Obviously, people didn't, I didn't see a headline in the newspaper telling everyone, by the way, everyone, Morry Zelkovich just bought a Hyundai Kona. Oh, you know damn well you need to. Because if he did, obviously it's the right thing to do. The whole world needs to buy a Kona now. Now, everywhere I look, I see these Konas everywhere. It's because the RAS, my reticular activating system, is now focused in on that. Much like people who say the law of attraction. First of all, people make laws. Nature doesn't make laws. If you suddenly started floating, the law of gravity police aren't going to arrest you and put you in jail. So there's no such thing as a law of anything other than what humans make. But it's really the reticular activation system that allows you to see something. So just give yourself some credit. Understand you're supposed to be happy. Again, happiness feels good for a reason. And you're meant to feel happy. And if anyone tries to tell you, well, you can't be happy all the time, smile at them and send them some positive energy because they just don't know what they're talking about.
Well, thank you so much, Maury, for sharing the wisdom and the
Pleasure.
different processes you have. If folks want to check out to see what kind of works for them, what's the best way for them to see what you're all about?
Well, I've got stuff kind of all over the place. I'm like a weed that way. So I guess the best way would probably be to, that's a good question. I have so many different websites with so many different product lines. I guess just look me up on the internet. Look up my name, Morry Zelkovich. It should be written somewhere in the show notes, I would expect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably the best way to be. You know what? Contact me directly at themaury@gmail.com.
There you
That's
go.
the best way to reach me. And I'm happy to help you in any way that I can. So it's THE dot, like Mary, ORRY dot method. Again, like Mary, ETHOD, like Dennis, @gmail.com.
And we'll have that in the comments so people can see
Thank you.
how to get a hold of you. Thank you again for coming on. Really appreciate it. Really insightful. And
Pleasure.
folks can really hopefully start thinking about how they can think differently. So with that, I hope everyone out there is thinking about this deeply. Take some time and put on a pair of headphones. Listen, take some time to get to know it. And also remember, keep on innovating. Talk to you later.